Behaviour management is obviously about having ground rules. But it's not enough to have those rules just in your own head. Effective teachers teach their rules to the children that they teach, as if they're teaching subject knowledge. And just as when you're teaching subject knowledge well, you need to engage the learners in the meaning of those rules and what they will be like in practice. It can also be a good strategy to negotiate a little bit on the interpretation of some of those rules, but remembering not to compromise on what they mean in practice and how important they are for you. In the next clip, we're going to see a teacher do exactly that.
So these are the rules of the room that I have for my classroom, and I know some of you are familiar with these rules because I taught you last year, but I didn't teach all of you, so I'm going to go through them anyway so that we're all clear. I'm happy for us to have a conversation, for us to have a discussion about some of these rules if you feel you'd like to. But these are the rules of my classroom. You will be committed to the work set. You're all here to learn, and I expect you all to be ready to learn as soon as you walk in the door. I want you to be committed to the work. Now, sometimes the work that I will ask you to do, you may not see the value of. But you will have to trust me, because this is my classroom, and I'm in charge of your learning, and I know what I am doing. So, if I'm giving you a piece of work to do, it is important, and you must do it to the best of your ability. So you must be committed to it. Now, not only should you be committed to the work set, you need to be committed to your own learning. By being committed to the work, you are saying to me that you care about the work and you care about your own learning. The second rule is you will communicate politely and clearly. Not just with me, but with each other. I have an ordered classroom, and that will remain this year as well. If we are polite and if we are clear, then it avoids misunderstanding. You will collaborate positively in group work. This is an expectation I bring to all the group work. You notice how I've set out the room. The room is set out so that you can work together. So this isn't a room that is always going to be silent. Okay? You will work together, but you will work together positively. Has anyone got any argument against that? Would anyone... Carry on, Mohammed.
What if you don't get along with the person next to you?
I am going to choose the groups that you work in. I have set up this seating plan for you to sit in at the moment, but I will vary those groups accordingly. If I feel there is a group that doesn't work well together, then I will move the group round. And thank you for that, because that's important. Another rule of the classroom is you will concentrate at all times. I've asked you to sit up, so please sit up. Thank you. I will ask you to concentrate at all times, because I don't want you to miss anything or misunderstand anything. If I ask a question and you haven't listened to the question, then you won't be able to answer it. And then it's going to slow everything down. So please be aware of that. You will not shout out, but put your hand up when asked. So if I ask a question, please put your hand up. I'm sure that's what you're used to doing in other classrooms anyway. And it makes it easiest, because if I ask a question and everyone shouts out, I can't hear the answer. I think that's fair enough. There are other ways of doing that as well, but I like the hands up. Okay. You will not chew sweets or gum. There is no eating in this room. Okay? You have eating in the canteen. We do not chew gum in school. We don't eat sweets around school, and so on. So please be mindful of that. If you've got some sweets and I see them, they become mine. And I think that's a fair rule. The use of electronic devices like mobile phones. You're not allowed to have them in school. I know some of you do have them, but we shouldn't have them out in the classroom, and I don't want to see them at all. They may seem a bit strict, these rules, and they may seem a bit harsh, But can you imagine perhaps what the classroom would be like if we didn't have any rules at all? What do you think? What do you think some of the problems might be?
Almost a rule might do the opposite of everything in that rules page.
Go on.
Maybe people won't be committed at all. People will be rude towards each other, especially in groups. They might not concentrate, etc.
That's right. That's really good. If we don't have those rules, then the things that we really don't want to happen would be happening. Group work would fail, wouldn't it? And suddenly, perhaps the freedoms that we have now within these rules, where we can work in groups, where we can work in pairs, where we can do presentations and so on, those things won't be able to happen. So actually, it can make for very dull lessons. So obviously we don't want that. Anything else? Are there any perhaps rules that should be on there that don't appear to be on there that may have come into your mind?
Bring in the correct utilities like pen, pencil, ruler, or maybe calculator and math or something.
Good, yes. Making sure you've got the correct stuff with you, the correct equipment, the pens, the pencils, the rulers and so on. Okay, those are the rules. Please can you open up your exercise books? And on the first page, I'd simply like you to copy them out so that we all know and we all remember. And if I have to, I can refer you back to the first page of your exercise book.
Okay, so setting the ground rules is very important early. To what extent can these rules change as you get to know a class better, or are these things that are very much absolute and set in stone?
I think they need to be absolute and set in stone. Obviously, as your relationships develop with children, you get to know them and you get to know how the class works. It might mean, because of those really strong ground rules, you don't need to remind them again. They just get used to working in the way that you want them to. And if you do need to remind some children, if you do need to dampen perhaps some inappropriate behaviour, some low-level disruption, you can just direct them back to those rules and they'll get themselves back straight away.
Okay. And how would you go about deciding what your rules, what your expectations for a class are actually going to be? Because I think a lot of trainee teachers are a bit anxious about exactly what they want to expect from a class. How would you go about, are there particular rules that are applicable in all contexts?
Yes, I think so. I think there's a lot of, there's the basics, really, if you like. It's the basics of what any teacher would want. A teacher wants a class to be listening when appropriately. A teacher wants a class to be coming in and out of a classroom sensibly, to be equipped, to be able to work together, to show respect, and so on. So everything that's conducive to good learning. Now, I think having that set list in your mind as a new teacher is very important. Now, there may be other things as well. There's other rules that have emerged in the last few years, for example, around electronic devices like mobile phones and so on. They're new expectations that might perhaps simply just be backing up the school policy.
I just saw a teacher explicitly explaining their ground rules and their expectations for behaviour. Investing some of your time in doing that with your learners will make a huge difference in the weeks and months ahead, particularly when teaching a new class. It's all very well to have the rules in your own mind, but if you don't tell them to the children, how can you ever expect them to behave accordingly?